You shouldn't just be fresh into the first year, second year of your venture. You're still finding your video. You've not even hit product market fit, and you're looking to raise funding from VCs or private equity. It doesn't make sustainable sense. You need to ask yourself, in this industry that I'm playing in, who are the people making money and what are they doing? I had to start my first company, which was called Innovative Digital Learning, which was an Edtech. Idea was revenue generating. I found that schools were more keen on content, not necessarily training.
At what point did you realize that?
After the first pilot in 2019, we built the second version in 2020 during COVID. For 6 months, nobody subscribed. I came to the harsh realization that if in 6 months nobody pays for your product, nobody's ever going to pay for this product. I had two options: shut down the company or think differently.
So, as a founder, there are moments where you feel like, you know what, I'm done.
There were days like that, so many challenges. A co-founder who was CTO at that time wanted to frustrate the business. So everything went smooth in the first year. Second year, started acting up. At that point, that was very nasty, delaying the work. Finally, just had to say, I think it's time for us to part ways. And something told me this might not just be the end. Just think, what can you do?
What's your advice for entrepreneurs looking to raise?
This is very important, especially for founders out there.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Venture Valley. I'm Richie Ngaro, Digital Products Manager here at TM Labs, a company that you have as a sister or brother to Ventures Valley. And with me today in the studio, we have Mr. Kelechi Uchenna, who is a co-founder of an Edtech platform that is making waves in Nigeria currently called Nigenius. And so great to have you here, Mr. Kelechi.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah. I was gonna, take a while and go through the entire, profile and everything. But I think it's just best if we jump into it and just ask you to give us, a big background of how you got started in tech, because I just want them to hear how you moved from oil and gas to tech. Just give us the lowdown background.
Okay. All right. So my name is Kelechi Uchenna. I'm co-founder and CEO of an Edtech company called Nigenius. Nigenius is a one-stop online platform that provides teachers with resources, parents with tutoring services, and helps schools deliver STEAM curriculums. We currently have about 3,000 teachers registered on our platform.
Amazing.
Serve about 300 parents across 5 countries.
Amazing.
And we work with about 10 schools in the
nice.
country, 6 in Lagos and 4 in Abuja.
Okay.
So I'm an engineer by background,
Yeah.
Studied environmental engineering in the University of Port Harcourt, did my master's in Cyprus, and got back to Nigeria in 2013.
Nice.
I remember, July 2013. So when I got back, I got into the oil industry in Port Harcourt then, worked as a project engineer, did about 1.5 years in onshore oil and gas, and did another 1.5 years in offshore oil and gas. But in 2017, I decided to go into entrepreneurship full time, and I'd already previously started my first company in 2015 while I was out of work, because I transitioned roles around 2015 to 2016. So that period, I was out of work waiting on a new employment that didn't come. So I had to start my first company, which was called Innovative Digital Learning, which was an Edtech.
Oh, nice.
We focused on training teachers in schools with teaching with technology.
Yes.
But when I now got that oil and gas job that I was waiting for, I still continued with IDL, part-time while I was working offshore. But in 2017, I got married, and at that point, I realized that the risks that I was taking on the rig in offshore oil and gas was too much. And as I got married to my wife, I just resigned from oil and gas, and I went straight into entrepreneurship full-time, IDL full-time. And at that time, I also started my oil and gas servicing company at then, but now IDL kind of set the grounds for Nigenius, because, in Lagos, having trained about 6 schools from 2015 to 2017, I got into Lagos, trained the first school, but I now found that schools were more keen on content, not necessarily training. They said, you just come and train us, but what are you leaving with us? So at that point, and I remember like one of my friends in a cohort, the BED 7 cohort, which was hosted by Diamond Bank at that time. She asked me a question. I said, Kelechi, all these schools that you're training, all these teachers that you're training, how are you sure you're transforming the way they teach? And that question struck me. And I decided to take a pilgrimage and go back to all the schools that I had trained and speak with the teachers. how have you been able to apply what you learned? How many projects have you done with your students? How many PowerPoint presentations do you use in class? How many videos have you played for your students and stuff? You know, so, and I found out that only about 20% of these teachers were actually applying what they learned.
Okay.
Reason being because they were very busy, particularly planning lessons. And even after they had been trained, they still didn't know how to access those quality teaching resources online. So I said, I think it was time to build a solution, you know, that would reduce the work of teachers planning lessons and also now give them access to a stream of quality online teaching resources. And that's how we built Nigenius in 2018. So basically helping teachers create geniuses in their classrooms with quality teaching content. You know, so that's the story from oil and gas to Edtech, basically. Amazing.
You mentioned something there that I would just like to pull a thread on. You mentioned the fact that you came back from Cyprus.
Yes.
You know, the thing is, nowadays, people just want to go back and not come. Like, go abroad and not come.
Yes.
Was the climate different then? Or what was the motivation to come back, really?
Oh, to come back. Okay. Basically, Cyprus was not somewhere I wanted to continue living the rest of my life. You understand? I've always been somebody that is just comfortable back home with everybody the same like me. You understand? And I believe in this country, you know, so I really wanted to explore, you know, grow and, you know, set up my life in Nigeria, basically. So that's practically why I came back. Maybe if I was in a different country, who knows? Maybe I don't know how to come back.
Maybe. Okay, no, we're not going to go into that.
Yeah.
We'll go into Cyprus or another country.
Yeah.
But another question I want to ask again is, it seems like you made an interesting pivot. Your time with Ideal.
Yes.
And then going into Nigenius, right?
Yes.
So Nigenius was the content arm where you realized that, it's time to go into this content thing.
Yes.
What kind of pivot was that? What made you come to that realization? I know you've mentioned you went around the schools, but particularly with regards to revenue, was it, you know, at what point did you realize that this model wasn't working for me? And, you know, what were the key components or levers that made you make that switch? So
that's a very good one. Okay, so innovative digital learning, and it's Nigenius, by the way, not engineers.
It just keeps it nice.
It's Nigenius, So first things first, Ideal, first company training teachers and teaching with technology to harness the power of ICT in their classrooms. So Ideal kind of paved the way for the birth of Nigenius because I found out that the market wanted something else. But Ideal was revenue generating, right? Schools were willing to pay for trainings, but the let me say returning customers. You know, a business needs returning customers to be able to be sustainable. So a school does a training, they probably won't call you back again.
True.
Right? You know, you have to now find another school and another school and another school. And we also discovered that schools wanted content, which was led to the birth of Nigenius. Right? However, even if I was doing, aside training schools, right, in teaching with ICT and technology, Ideal was also doing soft skills and ICT training for businesses. Right? So what the revenue was coming in, but and I remember one of my friends in Lagos said, Kelechi, you can't be doing only one thing in Lagos. Do you understand that? And you need to be doing like 2-3 ventures. You know, so that's why I launched Nigenius at that point. However, Nigenius was non-revenue generating for the first 3 years. We plan to run it as a subscription-based platform where teachers could pay 750 naira a month and get access to well-researched lesson plans and teaching resources on their phones and on their computers, right? And schools could also pay group subscriptions for maybe 10 of their teachers, 15 of their teachers to use, right? But we came to the harsh reality of it after the first pilot in 2019. We built the second version in 2020 during COVID. And after we built that version in COVID, for 6 months, nobody subscribed. Right? So through 2018 to around ending of 2020, you can talk about maybe like 3 subscriptions. And we were paying server costs like 22,000 every month you know, for Hetzner, you know. So I came to the harsh realization that if in 6 months nobody pays for your product, nobody's ever going to pay for this product. Right? So I had 2 options: shut down the company or think differently. You know? And something told me this might not just be the end. Just think, what can you do? And this is very important, especially for founders out there, is if you're ever in that position where you kind of feel confused, you don't know, things are not working, you need to ask yourself, in this industry that I'm playing in, who are the people making money and what are they doing? right? I looked at the industry. There were people in tutoring who were making money. There were people in the school management space who were making money. There were people in the content space. There was one player in the content space who was making a lot of money. They had just raised a lot of money. So they had money for marketing, right? They raised about 1.5 million. I'm sure the name $1.5 million at that time.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people will be able to understand which company that is. However, we couldn't, so to do a pivot, I couldn't convert our platform into a school management system. I didn't have the money. I couldn't convert it. I didn't have the marketing budget like the other partner, the other person who had raised so much money, who was in content management like me.
Yeah.
But the only thing I could do was to pivot into tutoring, because what do you need for tutoring? You just need teachers and parents.
Yeah.
I already had teachers on my platform.
Yeah.
I just needed to get parents.
Okay.
So quickly, just did a quick, easy form.
Yeah.
Started onboarding the teachers who had already signed up on the platform.
Yeah.
As tutors, and we now use another Google Sheet to get parents.
Yeah.
And we now match them with on the Google Sheet and just connected. And we got our first parent.
Yeah.
Paid about 40K that time. We gave the tutor 32K, and we got 8K profit. That 8K profit, we hadn't made that kind of revenue in 3 years.
It was just new money. It was
Yeah.
like, we can make this money.
Exactly. And that's how you know a business that is viable.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long for you to monetize.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
It was like just that one, switch to see that. And then I'm sure you could be able to estimate and say, maybe if we get like 10, 50, 100, then we could find some way.
Exactly.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
you mentioned something about the first 3 years, it wasn't making money. I mean, before the pivot, right?
Yeah.
But we find a lot of situations like that now with entrepreneurs. You might be running a startup. You might feel like, okay, something is not working and you need to make some changes. The first thing most entrepreneurs think about is funding.
Yes.
Right. So I'd like to specifically talk. I mean, you've gotten some funding from like Diamond, Tony Elumelu Foundation.
Yeah.
Did that come before you made the pivot or after you made the pivot? And then also, what's your advice for entrepreneurs looking to raise?
Okay, so that's a very, very good question. Now, 2018 we just launched of the first version.
Yeah.
Did a pilot in 2019.
Yeah.
Right, to test the market, whether before we hit schools, we said, let's see whether this thing actually works. Got negative feedback. But luckily for me, at that point, I had applied for Tony Elumelu for the third time.
Oh, okay.
The first 2 times I applied with IDL.
Oh.
I didn't get in. The third time I applied with Nigenius. The first time with Nigenius, I got in.
Okay.
But IDL got me into Bet7, which was the Lagos Business School Diamond Bank Accelerator.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but that wasn't funding. That was training.
Oh, okay.
So they trained us, and that was the launch pad for me in business. It taught us how to build enterprises, right?
Okay.
So that was called the Certificate of Entrepreneurial Management. I'm so grateful for that program.
Amazing.
Right? So TEF came in just as about we got the negative feedback from the pilot.
Nice.
So we now use the money from TEF to build the second version, which is the version that is online now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But however, after building that version, it still didn't monetize, right? Then, luckily for me, I had my other side gigs. My oil and gas servicing was running, so I was able to keep it afloat, but it was tough. If I didn't have my side gigs, we would have turned the lights off.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
However, somehow, I had a few people around me who believed in what I was doing. So like I told you initially, I got 2 angels. 2 angels gave us very small tickets at that time, just to keep the lights on, while we try to figure out how to monetize this thing, right? So at that point, that was what helped. However, it's not as if that period I was crazy searching for funding everywhere. In early stages, I feel that entrepreneurs to focus on grants, accelerators, incubators. So there you can actually learn, and maybe if at the end of the accelerator or the incubator there's funding, it can help. You shouldn't just be fresh into the first year, second year of your venture. You're still finding your feet. You've not even hit product market fit, and you're looking to raise funding from VCs or private equity. It doesn't make sustainable sense. Yeah, so it is after we became revenue generating that I now applied for the Startup Wise Guys non-funded program, which is the pre-accelerator, non-equity pre-accelerator, which was just only training. I got into that one.
Yeah.
But funny enough, as God will have it, I was one of the only ones who made it out one of the Nigerian entrepreneurs, we made it out from that one into the equity-based one.
Oh, okay.
Yes, into the equity-based one.
Okay.
And at that point, we already started doing revenue.
Yeah,
You know, so, and this was accelerator, not necessarily trying to raise from VC. It's an accelerator fund.
Yeah.
So I think it's in stages.
Okay.
There's the incubator when you're just starting out. At the time, you look for accelerators. There's so many of them. And after the accelerators, you're able to get some funding or some grants. Then, you know, there's a pre-seed stage.
Yeah.
You understand? Then you, from pre-seed, you now talk about seed. You know, so know where you are and know how to approach things. But I'm of the ideology that you need to build a customer-funded business.
Okay.
Right. Let your business have paying customers and returning customers. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Get revenue generating first before
Very,
you
very
find some
important.
extra funding.
Very, very important.
Amazing.
Very important.
I just want to, go back and talk about something personal.
Yeah.
You mentioned about a few tickets coming in to keep the lights on.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So as a founder, there are moments where you feel like,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm done.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to that moment where you felt like, I want to go back to the oil and gas industry? Things were working out. What happened? What kept you going?
I think I still get those till today.
Okay, that's interesting.
Till today, I am still like, guy, what are you doing? Like, like, man, just off this thing and just run away. But man, you can't. Like for me personally, I can't. Like, I know where I want to go, right? And there were days like that. There was a lot. There was so many challenges. There was like, a co-founder who was CTO at that time who wanted to frustrate the business. It nearly affected my mental health.
Yeah.
Like when you have a problem, like the problem is eating into your brain.
Yeah.
There have been times. There are times when you're just pushing it. Rejections. When you get rejections, you apply for things, you get rejections. Yeah, I know how many things I've applied for this year, even at this my stage. How many rejections I've got,
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the thing that keeps you going is the fact that there's something Tyler Perry said. He said, what you have is a plant. All you can do is water it. And that's all you need to do is to water it, and it will take its course. It will grow. I don't know if you've ever planted a tree before. Have you ever planted a tree?
Well, when I was younger, like a mango tree.
When I was a kid, I planted an avocado tree behind our house.
Oh,
I remember planting that avocado seed, and I remember this tree growing as strong as you can't pull it down.
No, yeah.
But that tree was once a small, flower that you can just kick and
go. Yeah.
But kick it now as it's big. so that's like it's a journey. Like that this thing that you're doing, one day you wake up one morning and you won't believe where you are. So that's just that's what keeps me going.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's what keeps me going. Honestly,
it's interesting to learn that even at this stage, it's still it's like saying it's something you have to constantly walk through as a founder.
Yes,
as case may be.
Yeah. So just to chip in one thing again is learn to ask for help, not desperately, but identify people. You need people around you, and if you're having a challenge, ask. Like at that point where I needed that funding, those small tickets to keep the lights on. There are people who were close to me, and I told, see the issues I have. We need to raise X just to keep this thing on while we try to figure out how to monetize this thing. And luckily it was like, okay, no, I can give you something. I like what you're doing, Kelechi. Take this.
Nice.
So that's very important. Asking for help at the right time for the right people.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So that's interesting. So it's like literally asking for help to keep the lights on instead of letting it die. Yeah. Right. But there's the belief that there's somebody out there that always believes in what you're doing. Definitely. So find that person and ask. Definitely. Talking about finding people, you spoke a little bit about your co-founder. Yeah. I want to dig into that. Okay. I mean, you're. So I would say you're a non-technical co-founder.
Yeah, I'm a non-technical founder. Yeah.
How did you navigate that? Because it's a huge problem up till now. Just what were the problems you faced? You mentioned about the problem was eating into your head mentally. Was it that the developer ran with the code, or just how did it work?
So let me just break down the journey. So 2018, I got the idea. To build Nigenius late 2017. So first thing I did was, if you have an idea, you have to put it on paper. If it's not on paper, it's a dream. The moment you write it down, it's a goal. You know. So I wrote the blueprints, version 1 and version 2. I did the blueprints myself, right? Wrote the blueprints, but I needed somebody to build it. I didn't learn how to code. No. I remember signing up for Code Academy. What's that website? One Code Academy back in the day.
Free Code Academy?
No, it was one code, this thing like that. And maybe 3 years later, I logged in and I just saw my first login 4 years ago.
Yikes.
Do you understand? I didn't learn how to code, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back in time. Maybe I would have built it myself.
Yeah.
So I needed somebody to build this thing for me. So a friend of mine who I met at the retreat, where I went to do a training for at that time, I told him what I wanted to build, and he was like, this is really cool. That he would introduce me to somebody, and he introduced me to the guy. We started talking. I showed him what I had, and we agreed on the price. Right, did the service level agreement, all the documentation, the IP agreements. Because at that time I was coming from my program in the Lagos Business School, which was the Bet7. So they taught us about documentation and everything about building businesses. So I did all my documentation very well. And we agreed on negotiation, and we started building. We built the first version. Really cool guy. Did a lot of work. I'm very big on relationships, so we still kept in touch, because I know this team might have issues 1 or 2 days.
Sure.
I might call you and stuff. Then we now got to TEF. Now came in 2019, and I built the second one. He worked with us to build the second one, but we had to bring in some externals. Because we wanted to build, because he didn't have the skills in that particular area. Had to bring some externals, but he was working on the back while those guys were working on the front. So we're still together. And at that point, after we launched the second version, I was like, this guy's been with me for a while. Let me give him, some ownership. And from accelerators and incubators, you learn that you can't do this alone. You need a team.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. You need a crack team, So I said, let me bring this guy on board. Let me give him some equity. But I vested it, and I learned that from TEF, the TEF program. TEF, they'll tell you TEF is like a mini MBA. TEF says when you want to give out equity, you vest it and you put milestones on it based on performance and criteria. So everything went smooth in the first year, and the first part of the equity. Second year, started acting up, started saying, first of all, we're not revenue generating.
Yeah, I was going to point out. That was
so I think he started getting agitated. Then now started not to understand the hierarchy of the business. Fine, you're technical. You built part of this. Other people came and built. But I am the leader. I'm the one pushing this thing, right? I'm the CEO, right? So we were now building our new website and also updating our admin. At that point, it now got very nasty, delaying the work. Our assets were in different places. At that point, I hadn't even discovered that the assets were scattered all around. But basically, dragging the work, making comments like, you're not my Oga. I think we've not even gotten to what's that? What's the need for that? But basically, there was a lot of toxicity that came. But where the challenge came was just before we got into Startup Wise Guys. We had to do a new website and also do the admin. The website was ready, the admin was ready. He was the one with all the codes and everything, and all the platforms for deployment and delaying deployment. Man, people have been working for 6 months and something that we can deploy in 24 hours and know that we're live.
And you're just keeping it.
So at that point, that's when it really got bad, because I'm like, everything, all the money we put into this, about to go down the drains. And finally, we sorted it out, We had to sort it out. The time comes as a founder where you have to make some moves. You have to make some moves. So we sorted it out. We were able to resolve it. And now got all the assets in place and in a central location. Assets don't just belong in one person. They belong in a central location where it is safeguarded, where the key people who have access to it, So we got that. And, after because of that website and that upgrade, we were able to get into Startup Wise Guys and raise the 65,000 euros that we raised in 2022. If we didn't have that site up and running and didn't have the new platforms, we wouldn't have gotten there. Because Startup Wise Guys did a thorough search, a thorough review of our technical infrastructure.
Wow.
I'm telling you, they brought a developer, check this. No. So at that point, the relationship wasn't working. And, we just had to say, guy, I think it's time for us to part ways. Because a startup, especially in the early years, is like a small family. If there's a member who is not aligned with the vision, it can intoxicate the whole, and the business can fail. When you hear businesses that fail, sometimes it's founders not agreeing with each other. Founders not agreeing with each other. So that's how it happened. But but how did I go through? How did I survive this? It was the people around me. Honestly, the people around me one of my other co-founders, who happens to be my wife, you know, she kept me sane during that period and let me understand that these are the things that happen on the journey. And I had another friend again, who was one of my angels.
Yeah.
You know, one of my angel investors.
Nice.
Walked me through the process. And I was able to, if it was just me, bro, I would have acted up and would have just messed up everything.
Yikes.
You know.
Yikes.
You know, so you need that support system. Very, very important. You know, to give you that comfort as you go on this journey, because it's a very rugged journey, bro.
Yeah.
It's a very rugged journey.
Yes.
Right. You know, when technology is something that is, you can't touch it, but it's there and it's very fragile. It can break.
Yes.
Especially when you put in a lot of money into it. So
yeah,
that's how I survived it, basically, man.
Yeah, especially when you put money that's not your own time and you have to make returns. You know, it can get really finicky around those areas.
Yeah.
But you've mentioned something. You've mentioned that a key thing is investing when it comes to co-founders. Would you want to shed more light, or maybe are there any other extra things you would say to look out for in a co-founder from your experience?
In a co-founder, so there's one of my friends who says that finding a co-founder, especially a CTO, is kind of like a courtship.
Yes.
Right? I'm not necessarily of that school that you can just meet somebody and say, okay, guy, come and be my CTO. Except it's a salaried CTO role. Right? If it's a salaried CTO role, he knows he's being paid to be the CTO. That's understandable. But when in our stages, and especially in this part of the ecosystem, you know, like Nigerian tech ecosystem, a co-founder is somebody you need to have grown with a bit. You need to have gone through some battles or some building with and gotten to understand this person. And if you find that, you are very, very lucky because you have somebody that's building this thing with you who understands where you guys are going. He knows the technical side, how to get there. You know the business and the sales side and the stakeholder engagement side. You know, so find somebody that you have blended with and you've even quarreled with. Yes, because you need to be able to quarrel in the right way. You need to be able to disagree and agree and still not scatter everywhere. You understand? I don't agree with you on this, but we need to do it like this. He'll say, okay, Kelechi, I know that this thing you want to do, I don't agree with it, but because it's you, let's do this. And there has to be that mutual respect. You know, so somebody that does not believe that because they have all the technical assets, they like own the business. No, it's not that. It's a collective thing, you know. So, you know, look out for somebody who is mature, somebody who's also earning.
Yeah. Oh,
especially in the early days when you're not revenue generation, maybe you're not revenue generating and you haven't gotten product market fit. Early days, you guys are just starting now. If he has a side gig that he's giving him money to, it's good because when he's not earning, he will get agitated with the slightest issues. Like, after all, you're not paying me. Quarrel now starts, you know. And somebody who understands his role, you know, understands that my guy here, let me allow Kelechi answer this question. I will answer this one. Let me allow Kelechi do this one, and me, I'll do this one, because he knows where his strengths are and he knows where his weaknesses are. So just that maturity, you know, just that maturity. That's what I would say look out for. Maturity.
Key thing about the person earning, even though you are earning.
Yeah.
I feel like we're flogging the co-founder issue, but I'm just gonna talk about that some more.
Yeah.
Because I was in a conversation recently and this came up. It's a big problem for Nigerian founders, especially the ones that are not technical.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned about, so there's the problem now where you apply for most, like, say, accelerators.
Yes.
And one of the key things they ask for, I'm not going to mention any names, but one popular one that is abroad asks for, says that you must be working full time on it. Yeah. So it's kind of hard, you know, to find somebody from your experience. You know, you worked with a co-founder that was still earning, working on other jobs. You were earning too and working on other jobs.
Yes.
Would you say it took away the time you give to the business? Or how did you manage that?
Okay. Yeah. So you see, those days, I feel the ecosystem has matured now. Those days of are you VCs or accelerators asking you, are you fully committed to this thing? Those days, I don't think any credible VCs will be asking those questions now. What I believe is, are you committed to building this thing? And your commitment shows in the traction. Do you understand? Your commitment shows in the traction that your company is doing, the number of users you're onboarding and the amount of revenue you're generating. Nobody wants to know whether you have like 5 gigs in the back, what you're doing. My own is that, is this startup working? Are you onboarding customers? Are you generating revenue? Are you growing? Right? So yeah. But, and if you're not committed, and I use the word committed instead of, what's that thing that they always ask?
Full-time.
Are you full-time or part-time? Are you committed to building this thing? And if commitment to building this thing is time, right? But whether you're doing any side hustle that is giving you cash here and there, you're on your own. Do you understand? So your question again is, yes, you have to be committed. To answer your question, you have to be committed. When the gig economy now, people are doing all sorts. Like, I think the founder of Coinbase, he used to work for NVIDIA. He was building Coinbase while he was working in NVIDIA. I know people that are working in startups as CTO. They're running their own companies. As long as you're not disrupting what you're doing, Especially these days now where we have, young people working for us, Gen Zs, and Gen Zs they're doing plenty of things.
Yeah, multiple.
They are doing plenty of things, but what I always tell them is that whatever you're doing, I'm not saying you should not do it, but the moment I notice that it's affecting your performance, your full-time work job, then that's where we have to have a conversation, So it's just commitment, and commitment is time. But are people doing, or can people do other things while building a startup? Yes, they can. Okay. Yes, they can. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes, they can.
Let's just throw it into the future a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say now, here and now.
Yeah.
AI is here.
Yes.
So, an AI, one of the sectors that we see that AI is going to sort of revolutionize, or we're seeing a lot of solutions popping out in, is education.
Yes.
I mean, Nigenius plays a role there.
Yeah.
How do you, as a key operator within the education space, how do you see AI disrupting things or making a change, especially given your business model of content?
And tutoring as well. Yeah. So, I see AI definitely. Generative AI, particularly, and because when people talk about AI is a lot, right? But generative AI has disrupted education, and it's going to continue to do that, right? And for us, for our teaching resource platform, we definitely have to leverage AI in the next iteration of it. We're not jumping on it right now, but the next iteration of our lesson plan application, which is version 3, will definitely be powered by AI, generative AI.
Okay.
Right, it's going to be an intelligent virtual assistant. What it is now is an innovative digital teaching assistant, but it's going to be an intelligent virtual teaching assistant, right? But are we doing it right now? Not yet. Is it in the plan? Yes, it is.
Okay.
In the industry, I see some people saying that AI is for tutoring. Some people say that AI tutors will disrupt and kids will not need personal tutors again. I don't think so just yet, because even in teaching, people need that emotional, physical, and that relationship with a teacher, right? AI will not be able to give you that guidance and that mentorship and that confidence building that a normal teacher will be able to teach, right? But can teachers use AI to give you personalized learning journeys? Yes, right? Can teachers use AI to prepare, to mark papers and assess you? Yes. But say taking away the teacher and an AI tutor or an AI teacher coming to take place. Even if it's happening in some parts of the world, Africa still is at a stage where we have a lot of other problems to take care of before we even get to that level.
Yes.
Right. So I'm not bothered about that, but I'm very, very aware of the AI, the AI revolution that's going on. So that's it. That's basically it.
So there's still going to be the physical factor.
Yes.
No doubt.
Yes. Online, and physical tutoring. Yeah.
It's like, I can't take the role of emotions. Right.
Some of them are even laughing now. Some of the AI, generative AI is now, they can even understand jokes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, people are dating some, so that goes to say a lot. Say a lot.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask, given your experience so far with the education sector, if there's one thing you would change about the education sector, what would it be, and why?
One thing I would change about the education sector, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
One thing I would change is I would like to see, number one, I'll talk about the ecosystem. I would like to see more mergers between edtechs and acquisitions. we have a lot of edtechs playing in the same spaces and just clogging the space, right? Look at fintech. Paystack, what Paystack did, Paystack, as they got acquired, that's an exit for the founders. And exits create more liquidity in the ecosystem because there's money, more hiring, more talent, more engagement, more vibrancy for the ecosystem. We need those kind of exits in edtech in Africa and in Nigeria, particularly Nigeria. More acquisitions, more mergers between edtechs, where one edtech that needs a strength in a particular area merges with another edtech that has a weakness in one particular area and becomes their strength, so that they can actually drive those revenue goals and maybe be acquired or maybe be invested in. So we need those partnerships and more mergers and acquisitions for edtechs. We also need more government partnerships. There are a myriad of problems that Nigerian education is facing. A lot of our edtechs have all the solutions, from out of school children to literacy to teaching resources to gamified learning to even speech. Like even the ones that help people in local languages to the ones that are even helping people who are how would I put it? What's the word? Challenged.
Yeah.
Like maybe speakers with physical, students with physical challenges. We have startups that are doing all these things. So government needs to partner more, open up your problems that you're having, and call startups, edtech companies to come, and do more. Some edtech companies are doing it, but it's kind of like still very small.
Okay.
Open it up. Let these edtechs come, show you their solutions, and let's see how we can plug it in to solve the problems that we're facing in the country. You'll be surprised with what we can solve.
Go for it.
Very, very surprised. Yeah.
Amazing. So it seems like there's more of like some form of gatekeeping in the sense?
Kind of gatekeeping, right? And also kind of no trust.
Okay.
Is it these young kids that want to come and do this thing? But these young kids are very talented, man. There's nothing they can't do.
Yeah.
We have young people in Nigeria building crypto exchanges, building, all kinds of things. So just trust and, let me say trust and maybe just trust, basically. To trust that these people can solve this problem. Basically.
Trust.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna ask a question now, which is more or less still buying from your journey, right? Or trying to buy. Say, for example, there's a young Kelechi watching this or listening to this.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to him as a founder? Somebody who's about to start their journey.
Yeah.
And based on your experience so far, what advice would you give to the person?
There's another very good one. Number one is, first of all, right, don't give up on your journey.
Okay.
Right? And understand that the journey is a long, hard, and very painful journey, but it is worth it, right? So understand that you're in it for the long run. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? That's why that's why I exercise, because exercise helps you build that tolerance, those endorphins. They help you reduce stress. I've been running since 2017.
No.
Yeah, I run like 4 kilometers twice or thrice every week, and I believe that has helped me build my tolerance. So understand that it's a long journey, and embrace it, the ups and downs, and don't give up. Number two is try to monetize as quickly as possible. Fail fast, and in your failure you will discover what you need to do to actually build it. And it's something I told the students in UI when I went to deliver a keynote speech. I said, take risks, do bold things. Yeah. I remember my 6 year ago self. I was very, I was very open to risks and make bold moves. I thought about something, we'll build it. Yeah. I had an idea, we'll start. So now is the time. Build those things, make those mistakes, and discover, what you need to do that. And another thing again is the business model before the business. So even if we ran the business model for subscription and it didn't work, but we still knew that this was the business model we're going to use. So you have to also think that that you're building a business. You're not just building a product. You're building a product first, but you're also going to build a business from that product, right? So focus on how to monetize as quickly as possible. get the best guys that you can from early stages, even if it's your co-founders. Find the best people to build this thing with you. And at the end of the day, build relationships. Know people. If we didn't know some certain people, we probably wouldn't have gotten into the kind of places that we gotten into. Somebody has to tell you about an accelerator. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You just be somebody say, guy, click this link, apply for this thing. Build relationships, diverse relationships, ladies, men, people in different industries, right? So build relationships. And my final advice to you is don't lose yourself in it. Don't get so focused on the hustle and the building the company that you forget to take care of yourself.
That you forget to marry.
Not just marry. Not forget to marry. That's not the right way. You can be working so hard and everything and not eating right, or relaxing, or resting right, or not taking care of yourself, or not even finding time to even, engage with people. You just realize just work. You end up burning out, and you have you need the vessel to enjoy the success.
Yeah, sure.
She said, I'm looking young.
No, that's for sure. I mean, running 4 kilometers at least twice every week.
I'm looking young. I mean, relaxed.
I'm trying. I do every Saturday.
So you're very fit now. You're fit. So
yeah.
I can imagine what I would look like or what I would feel like if all these years I didn't exercise and spend quality time with family and friends. I've just been walk. I'll probably look like Penguin. Penguin. From the recent Penguin movie. Probably big and
yes.
So
breathing problems.
That's it, my brother. That's
all right. Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Kelechi. I mean, this has been something really interesting. I really hope founders who listen to this will get to learn a lot, because I did learn a lot. I mean, I'm a founder too myself, so most of the things you were saying I could relate. It was like talking to somebody who had gone ahead.
Definitely.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for the time.
No,
and so guys, until next time on Venture Valley, please feel free to subscribe, like, comment. We'd like to hear from you. Do you have questions for Mr. Kelechi? Do you feel like there's something we missed? Please, we'd like to hear from you. I would like to know more. But don't forget to subscribe. At least if you don't do anything, do subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And until next time, it's Venture Valley.